This is Andy Kenney, an operation of his model railroad.
Hey, very good. Thank you, Jim. Getting this program set up, three of my friends are on here tonight. I had some others that I'd give them the information to. They might be on YouTube, but they were all very helpful in getting this done because, as usual, I'm a wait till the last minute. One of the guys here, Ron, he's always razzing me about that. So, but I got her done. So anyways, let me put this up. There we go. Now, I'm hoping that we don't have any problems with this. The video, I don't know if just poor quality or a little jumpy. The stills look pretty good. And it's a mixture of video clips, stills, and text pages. And we'll go through what we've got, how we use it, and then some stuff, actual operating session. So it looks like I'm going to have to use my mouse for this. There we go. So it's Class 1 model railroad in 1956. And I'm going to spend a little time on how we came about this layout and what we use to do our operations. I think that's an important part. And feel free, I don't know, Jim, if you like us to do this, but if somebody has a question, I don't have any problem with them stopping me and asking. It's a lot easier than going back so many frames if they have a question on something specific. So it won't, the interruption's not going to mess me up. So.
Well, that's great. We would prefer that, Andy. Thank you so much.
Okay, good. And now a lot of it is timetable and train orders in dark territory. And that's kind of what we'll be talking about. And this is just a shot. These Jeeps are, I've got 9 Jeeps painted for my railroad, and just about everything else is waiting to be painted apart from the L&N, Milwaukee, and Baltimore and Ohio, Rock Island units. You'll see we're going to keep them that way, and I'll explain why. And I guess I'm going to have to hit the buttons on this. Now, is that jerky or just poor quality? Because from me, it looks good.
I didn't have any problem with it.
Oh, okay. All right. Because if it's a waste of time, I can bypass the video clips. All right. The railroad, 1956 era, and you'll find out a little later we're also working on another era because we're buggers for punishment. Centers on the Nashville, Tennessee area. And the actual model portion takes from Bowling Green, Kentucky to Columbia, Tennessee. Those are 2 staging points. Approximately 96 scale miles. And when I say scale, it's actually smiles. They're 12 foot to the smile. And that allows us to set up things like timetables and that you need to have the time element for the distance. There are 6 railroads that operate on this model portion, and some effects. Some have larger operations than others. There are 3 yards and a passenger terminal modeled. It's a triple deck design. Center deck is City of Nashville, and there's a double track main throughout the center deck. Lower deck is Bowling Green north and countryside single track with passing sidings. The upper deck is south of Nashville going to Columbia, and that's the same thing, single track with passing sidings. There's a total, or will be a total, of 45 trains, or I should say staging tracks available. At this time, we have about 35 tracks. We've got another staging yard to put in yet, second half in Columbia. One of the nice things is you only go around the railroad continually in the same direction. If you're a southbound, you're always going to the left. It doesn't double back and come back the other direction on a different level. So you're always looking west, right is north, and left is south. And there's a portion of the railroad that climbs from one level to the next, which known as a nolix rather than a helix. We have one helix, and that brings the trains out of lower staging onto the main peninsula to the first level. Okay, I'd like to make a few points here as you view the layout. Not a whole lot of scenery yet. We've started working on it more. I've got a work crew, and some of them are here tonight. Every Tuesday morning, they come over for about 3 hours, from 9 to noon. And we've been working on various things now. So a lot of the structures you'll see are just placeholders until we actually build the buildings we want. Paint schemes, you'll see different engines with different paint schemes that they're waiting to be painted. But we're using them now just so we can operate. Era inconsistencies. We do have locomotives that we've got on the railroad. We're testing them and such. And therefore the new, the 1969 era. So they're second generation, a lot of Alcos and some GE. Nashville was designed with modeler's license. It's what I came up with. Somebody from Nashville would probably be a little disappointed, but all of us guys from Michigan are happy. We think that's Nashville and it works for us. And we'll talk about it as we go along. Passenger trains are just in development now. We put 2 passenger trains on the schedule just to get the guys used to the timetable and first class trains and getting out of their way. So the map of the railroad, if you see the top of the map here, Chicago and Detroit, we have main lines that come down from both of them to Indianapolis. Indianapolis, a major reclassification yard. Then the line goes to Louisville, through Bowling Green to Nashville, from Nashville to Columbia, which is the other end of the railroad that's modeled, to Birmingham, Alabama, and New Orleans. And it's from the Great Lakes to the Gulf. This is the portion of the railroad that's actually modeled. And you can see the different towns in here. And we'll discuss these a little bit more as we go along. Okay, operating railroads, the Nashville Road, and that's actually the Chicago, Indianapolis, Nashville, and Southern is the actual name, and it's shortened to Nashville Road. The B&O, the Rock Island are major players. The L&N, you'll find is a co-owner of the Nashville Road, but it's a secondary player coming out of its own staging onto the main yards with interchange traffic. Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis is another one, comes out of its own staging, goes to both the main yards. And then Tennessee Central has a branch line that goes through a couple of towns and does its own switching and interchanges with the Nashville Road. So a little history. Basically, what I wanted to point out was that the L&N and Milwaukee Road ended up taking over control of the Nashville Road when it fell upon hard times financially. Milwaukee was looking for a railroad that would get it south, and this would take it all the way to the Gulf. So it went in with the L&N and took over the Nashville Road. So therefore, you'll see some Milwaukee equipment, some run-throughs at an earlier time in the 50s, and also Milwaukee Road passenger trains will run along with the Nashville Road. And Dave Hussman, I have to give him credit for helping me in doing most of the what if history, late 1800s to modern day. And I've got a full history of it if anybody was ever interested in seeing it. But it lends credibility to the railroad and kind of why it is what it is today that we've got in the basement. Okay, key locations on the railroad. First of all, Bowling Green, this is north staging. This is half the staging, 10 tracks. Actually, on the other side here, there's 12 tracks. There's 12 more. We're not using them yet, but we will be once the passenger trains are operating. Columbia, the other end, you'll see is a lot of steam engines. That's because we run steam from Nashville south to Birmingham. That's what we call the last bastion of steam on the railroad. And also Rock Island runs from Nashville south to Columbia and then on to Memphis, where the Rock Island actually got as far east. This is Gresham Yard. It's a long yard. It's the biggest one on the railroad. The far end is the local yard where we do all the switching to build the trains that do local work. Gresham Local Yard is a better picture of it. This is just an overview. Okay, and this is Ribo Yard. Ribo Yard, has a short name, stands for Rock Island and B&O. And it's a transfer or the interchange yard between the Rock Island and B&O in Nashville. And this is part of my modeler's license. And we'll talk about this a little bit more. This is a long yard. It's about 56 feet long from one end to the other, including the switching district down here that you're looking at now.
Andy, how many operators do you have for that yard?
We like about 20. I get into that a little bit later, but we can operate with 15, but that's getting kind of, we've got to slow the time down in that. So this is Cedar Hill Yard, which I think is kind of the neatest yard. We have 1 to 2 people crewing this yard, and they have several local trains that work out of here, switchers, branch line train, and also transfer trains that go up to the other 2 yards back and forth. Now this train you're going to see right here, that'll come up later. So just remember that train.
How many operators do you have in that Ribo Yard, Andy, normally?
Oh, Ribo Yard? Usually 2.
Yeah.
Gresham
2.
Yard, we like 3.
Okay.
And this yard was, to begin with, was just a mainline passing siding. And I came back and redesigned it. And we've got a gravel operation here, pretty good sized gravel operation right there. So we run a lot of empties in and loads out there. Okay, the Nashville Union Passenger Terminal, we're not really operating this yet. You'll see one train kind of leaving during the session coming up. But all these cars have basically have been put back in boxes and they're being stored until we get this operational. That station, by the way, was given to me by a group of people in Indianapolis. It was built, scratch built using DPM wall modules, but the gentleman that built it had passed away. And it was in the actual station, this window down here was where their model railroad was. And when the hotel took it over, they made them move out. So the station was without a home. Nobody could use it. They brought it up from Indianapolis to me because they said, I got a layout big enough that I could use a station like that. So I really appreciated it. It's going to be like it is now, but on a different frame if you want support. going to be roads down both sides of it, across the front of it. And the whole back area from here down is going to be just building flats, a downtown area. Up here will be this will be hidden by a long masonite board, and everything will be mounted on the masonite board. I didn't want a train flying across the scene on top of the station. That's why I cut it into the 2-bys that hold the wall up there. Okay, there's a few towns. Guthrie is an important and busy place. These 2 tracks, you can just see the L&N, that's the L&N staging, and they come out and take the main line into Nashville and go to 2 different Ribo Yard and Gresham Yard. And then Tennessee Central, you can see the caboose right here. That train would be turned around when it runs, and it comes across the Nashville Road in there, and then it comes out right here. You can see it coming around here, comes out here, and it has its own customers in Adam, and the Nashville Road has the other customers in Adam. And what the Tennessee Central does, they come up here and they set their cars that are outbound on this track and this track, and they pick up the inbound cars from Nashville Road. So this is the interchange area between the Nashville Road and the Tennessee Central. Okay, Ron, that's with us tonight, is doing a switching job at Madison. And the guys like Madison because they're kind of off by themselves. They don't have to worry about other trains or anything. Take all the time you need to switch it. It's a fun job. Over here is the second, this is South Nashville. And it's got just many customers, but they're more spread out and they go all the way back behind the camera. And then over here is a 30-car coal train that comes in. We're going to have a big power plant here. There's one of the walls just sitting there. And every 24 hours, every day, loaded coal train comes in and the empties are taken out and the loads are set. So you'll see that coal train a little later. Back here is South Nashville commercial area, and you can see the railroad runs on a viaduct along there. It goes in here, circles the furnace, and comes out up here. This is part of the climb from one deck to the other. Down here, you can just barely see a track. It's hidden at this point. It goes in and it comes out right up here on the second deck. This is South Nashville I was just talking about. Here's a loaded coal train, and they'll be pulling the empties and setting the loads. And you see a lot of these buildings are just in place just so we got buildings. This is North Gresham, Ford Motor Company here, and it takes quite a few cars in this 2 tracks in there. And the produce company, Latini Produce, takes a lot of reefers, about 14 cars there. Double track main right here, and this track right here is the track that goes down to Madison where Ron was working. Hunter Branch, this was or is the end of the line for Hunter Branch. A lot of pulpwood operation back in here, so we bring in empties and take out loads. Ron made a whole lot of pulpwood loads for us, so we're in good shape there. And they go to the paper mill, and the cars just go back and forth. And we've got quite a few customers here, and 2 more towns on the way out of Cedar Hill Yard, that smaller yard I showed you. Okay, operations, equipment, and documents. I created this board. I wanted something that was going to work better for me. And I've shown this before, I believe, so some of you've seen it. I'll go over it fairly quickly. But I would take a clipboard and I'd have all the trains on the list on the clipboard, and I'd go find crews. Well, what I was finding out was I was getting busy doing other things like making coffee and forgetting to assign crews to trains. So trains were starting to run behind. And if I didn't remember, because I had the clipboard, then nobody knew. So that wasn't working well. So these 3 panels I'll show you individually. This is the first panel. And what we do is we put all the trains that are going to run or we have planned to run for the session down here. This is the call time for each train. This is the name of the train, where it's located, and the type of train it is. And then the crews would come in and they would go grab their name tags here, their magnet name tags, and then they'd put them in whatever slot they wanted to run the train. And we'd start from the top and go down. If we had someone missing, or we had a train missing someone, I'd get someone to move up to take it. But that way, it kind of self-corrected and took care of itself. And I didn't have to worry about it. We could just look up and tell really quickly if a train was without a crew, and how we, take care of it, get someone on it. This is what it looks like after. And I used to take pictures of these and use those for information. If I was wondering how long it took a local train to do its job, I'd come up and I could look at the times and determine if I gave it enough time or not. Up here is where the dispatcher put his name tag, yard masters, and the crews that wanted to work in the yard with the yard masters. And the last one's just a list of all the trains. This is all 24 hours of trains. There's a little over 70 trains, if I'm not mistaken, that we run in a 24-hour day. At the speed we're running our fast clock, which is really slow right now, about 1.2, 1.3 to 1, just because the railroad can't keep up with the fast clock. And we need that if we have 15 people. If we have 20 people, we can boost it up to 1.5 to 1. But to keep it at that speed, we get about 8 hours of railroad time in a 6-hour op session. So it takes about 3 days, 3 op sessions to run through a day of railroading. Okay, dispatcher's office. He's got his own office. It's got a door. When it gets a little loud in the break room, he can close the door on that. I picked this up a long time ago on eBay. I'm glad I did. Same with the speaker. It's an old antique speaker, and that works well also. Got a foot pedal down here for the dispatcher. This is his train sheet. He keeps track of the trains. We'll see a close-up of some of this stuff here. And over here is the signal panel that Craig Rosenberger's here tonight. And he built this up with really a nice job with oak. And I believe it's oak, and did all finished for me, and mounted the panel into it. By the way, Craig made, was I think 50 car card boxes. You'll see some in there on the railroad, from 1 slot to 12 slots. And somebody else found out about it. Now the poor guy, he had to make it for the local club, but luckily he enjoys working with wood. So this panel allows the dispatcher to control all the train order signals across the railroad. And you'll see some of those with the pictures. And the lights are either be red or green. And it takes you from one end of the railroad, Guthrie, that's the first one, and Spring Hill's the last one. So it goes across this way and this way. These are going to control interlockings at specific points on the railroad. Down here is the track plan from Bowling Green to Columbia, with each of the passing sidings and what station controls that point, or I should say is at that point on the railroad. This is the double track main across the city in the middle section. We don't worry about doing anything there as far as this panel goes. So here's a close-up. If he wants to give a signal, a red signal to Cedar Hill northbound train, you flip this one down, and the southbound can remain green. And that way he's going to stop. Hopefully the crew sees it and they stop and they pick up new orders. And this is Gresham Yard work area, Gresham Yard Master, and built a little desk for him. Here's one of those. This is one of the larger boxes that Craig made. Got a phone, and you'll see the turnouts are mounted on these little fascia plates, 1x2 fascia plates. So we got this pretty well set up for the crew. And this is at staging. This is their telephone. Okay, one of our crew had a stroke and has aphasia, and he's unable to communicate verbally by telephone. So he and the dispatcher set this up, and it works great. We're really happy it works good. I think he's probably one of the better OSers on the railroad. But if you look, this is actually his phone. He gives the train number, and he gives the location, and he passes at a certain time. And as each station he passes, he sends this to the dispatcher. And here's the dispatcher up here. Sends it, and then he just says copy. And this worked out great. And we're really happy that that's worked out like that. And here's a 3-card box. And just quickly, when you come in and you're making a set out, you're delivering a car, that card goes in here. The crews never touch the waybills. They're taken care of between sessions. And if a car can't be spotted because it's already got a car in that spot, then it's put in the off spot. And the first thing the crew does when they come, before they deliver a car, they'll look and see what off spots there are that have to be delivered and move them over if they can. And then the new car coming in would be placed in off spot if it had to be. And then between sessions, I or somebody else, 2 or 3 of us do it, we'll go through these cards and decide which cars are ready to be picked up. And we'll pull the waybill if it's one-sided, or we'll rotate the waybill if it's two-sided. If it came in empty, needs a load, then we rotate it to the load and put it over here. Now the car's en route to wherever it's going with its load. We have 10 fast clocks around the railroad, and that's controlled by in the dispatcher's office. Let's see, go back here a little bit. Oh, you can't see it. It was still on the other desk. This is a little bit earlier picture. But anyways, the controller Ron built for us, and we can adjust the fast clock speed, and we can turn the fast clocks on and off. And right here, when it goes to PM, that light comes on. It's a yellow LED. And so you can tell morning from after or night. I created this form for the crews to use, or actually for the yardmasters to use. So when he builds a train, if the train is going out on the main line, the dispatcher needs to know all the information on the train. So we have them fill these out, and they're given to the dispatcher beforehand, or when the train's ready to go. And the dispatcher will take all the information he needs off this and put it on his board, on his the sheet that he follows the trains with. The trains that are in staging, whoever stages the train will make these out as they do that and leave it on a clipboard at the dispatcher's desk. So he knows he just has to pull these completed forms to get the information. This is a clearance card or a clearance form. We'll get into that later. This is the type train order that we use. Dispatcher, their train schedule, there's an AM and a PM. This one's an AM. And it only deals with trains that the dispatcher has to work with. So it doesn't deal with the local trains that don't get out on the main line or go outside of yard limits. So these are just trains that he's got to protect, write orders for, and get them across the railroad. The green, you'll see Bowling Green is always green, not because it's Bowling Green, but that's the north end. And the yellow is the south end. That goes south of Nashville. So I color coded them just to make it a little easier to see that, you know, you can tell if there's conflict. There could be conflict between these two, but there's not going to be conflict between these two because they're opposite ends of the railroad. So that's helped them. And got call time of the train, the direction the train's going. He knows by the color what subdivision, the train ID, what railroad it is, because you can see we've got L&N, B&O, SINS, which is Nashville Road. And here is a Rock Island, and that's at Columbia. That's the south end of the railroad. So it tells origination, if they have any work in between, interim stop, and their termination. And this is dispatcher's record of train movement. All these forms I made on CorelDRAW, which I found very easy to use, and it's worked out well. This actually, this is 2 sheets. The sheets are so big and it goes quite a bit further both sides. So I have them printed up at Office Max, and then I glue or tape the 2 together as I use them. So not to get into it too deep, but these are all trains that have run already. You can see this one far left, it has not run, and this one has not run. And if you look, this train is only going to Gresham Yard. Or actually, yeah, it's going, let's see, 9:55. Well, it shows read up, so it must be going that direction. And you'll see the line here. That lets him know that he's not going to have that train in that area. The train's going to go from here north. So these are all the times as it passed these stations. When the train's done and it's off his railroad, you can see the red line. He just puts a red line through it, and that takes care of it. And it can get kind of busy for these dispatchers. I got two guys that are willing to dispatch. It's a tough job. Okay, the op session. Usually we have 2 per month. Middle Monday, a 5-hour session, 11 to 4, because we're older people. Middle of the week, people aren't working. The last one is last Saturday of each month. We try to make it each month. 6-hour sessions, 10 to 4. And that's usually the younger ones that are working during the week. And it works out good that way. 16 to 20 crew members. We prefer to get closer to 20. About 30 trains are on the schedule. Usually most are run, but any that are not, we just push up to the top and then add the new trains below them. And each session, we just pick up where the last session left off. When we hit 4 o'clock, the dispatcher now just hits a switch and kills the railroad. And wherever that train is, it'll continue a couple of weeks later. Okay, a little humor here. My humor is usually lost though, but anyways, going by Hollywood tradition, a cast of thousands, I couldn't get thousands. So we have at least 10 good guys. The dispatcher, and here's that box I was talking about that Ron made for us, and that controls the clocks. So dispatcher, this one is Tim. You also see John, and you can see the boards lit up with the green. And part of the crew, this isn't the whole crew, but like I say, usually have at least 15 and better part of 20. So it'll fill the room pretty good. The 2 bosses, they're always with me. They're with me right now. So, okay, the operating session begins now. I didn't want to follow one train too long. You watch it back up and go forward and switch here and switch there. It gets kind of boring. So I've kind of jumped around, but in a sequence, so you can see what we're doing. And hopefully it'll be enjoyable and you kind of get an idea of how we operate. Okay, so I'm just showing you a few pictures now of the operating session as it's going on. Here's Bob. Bob's with us tonight. Bob comes all the way from Sandusky to operate with us, 3 hours each way. And there's Ron, and Craig is also with us, and there's Bob. So the 3 of them here. You can see there's the main yard, Gresham Yard, steam engine facilities, diesel facilities, and it goes on. There's the passenger station. And there's the coal train. Well, let's see. No, that's not. That's some hoppers full of gravel, ballast. Yeah, let's see. I got to hit this. Okay, train crew info. Each train crew, when they get a train, they get specific information. Get these, one of these, multiples of these if they got more than one locomotive, and a whole handful of these. So train info, to cover it a little bit, trains, every train has a name. So that's your name, the call time, where it's called, where it's at, and where it's going. This one happens to be a third class scheduled train, so it's on timetable. Be making a set off and a pickup at South Adam. And we'll get into the L numbers here in a little bit, but set off all L4 destined cars. Pick up only the through norths, TN. Does not switch customer spots. And the cars are blocked. The first block in the train will be all the L4s, which you'll be setting off as a block. And then everything else behind them, because he's a northbound train. So he's only going to have everything traffic north and whatever's going to be set off at South Adam. Over here, the downtown industrial switcher, call time, where he's at, originates at Gresham, works all the customers in downtown district, except for the LCL Freight House. There's so many cars that go there that there's a specific local train that takes cars over and sets them up. He also works the railroad company service spots, has a caboose, cars are not blocked, and he returns outbound cars to Gresham main yard where they're classified to outbound trains. Okay, the engine car is pretty straightforward, and we want you to have a card in your pack for your engine. And like I say, if you have two engines, then we want both of them. The waybill, I'm not going to spend too much time with the car cards here. You can see them, and I've discussed these before. I had a program on. But what I wanted to point out to you was the station and spot here and the station here. So L9 is a specific location on the railroad, and D50 is a specific spot or a specific customer at that location. Over here, TS means through south or traffic south, means the same thing. So that car is going south off the railroad to the south. This gives you a little more information on the L numbers. The L stands for local. And first town coming out of Bowling Green to the north is L1, that's Guthrie. And as you see, each location has an L code. The last one is L17, Spring Hill, and then it's on to Columbia Staging. So over here, station coding north to south, L1 through L17. L means local on the layout. TN is through north or traffic north, and that's cars going to Bowling Green. Through south and through west, TSTW are both going to Columbia. T-Wests at Columbia go west to Memphis on the Rock Island. So T-West or TW is Rock Island trains, and TS is Nashville Road trains. So the clearance and the train order. And we're going to have a little scenario here. So trains, B&O Extra 159 South is at Bowling Green, and L&N Extra 2503 North is at Gresham Yard. Now this is a bad picture, but I had to darken it just to get this to show up enough to read. The others are in better shape than this. So this is a Form 19Y. It's train order number 4. I've got one dispatcher that kind of likes 54 better than 56. So to engine 159, it's not yet a train, okay? He's not been given an order yet. So it's to engine 159 at Bowling Green. Engine 159, run extra, Bowling Green to Ribo Yard. So now he is clear to go from one all the way to the other. That creates a train. He is now extra B&O 159 south. And here is his clearance, extra 159 south at Bowling Green. And he has one order, and it's number 4. And this, here's where he's coming into Guthrie. He's left Bowling Green and he's coming into the first station, Guthrie, which is also L1, I pointed out. And this is the coal train. Okay, now this is for the other train, extra LN 23 or 2503. I'm sorry, yeah, 03 north, should say 0, to C&E engine LN 2503 at Gresham. Engine LN 2503, run extra Gresham to Guthrie. So now he is extra LN 2503 north at Gresham. And it's, I'm not going to get into this too deep because it can be a little confusing. But right now, the dispatcher has created what's known as a lap order. And what a lap order does is allows 2 trains basically to have a head-on. He's cleared them past each other on a single track. So before this is delivered to the LNN 2503, he will, first of all, let me show you this and I'll get back into that. Okay, so now he's on his way. And when he gets to Cedar Hill, which is that yard, that small yard that's got all the locals working out of, he is going to get a new order. So in that new order is going to have him meet extra 159 south, meet extra 2503 north at Springfield. Extra 159 south takes siding. And this order goes to, and this order number 7 goes to both extra 159 south at Guthrie and extra 2503 north at Cedar Hill. So he's given them this order, and that order was actually given to him first, the train first in order number. And it gets a little confusing, and I'm not that much of an expert, so I'm going to leave it there. If someone else is more of an expert, I'd love you to discuss it with me. Okay, so here's extra 159 south at Guthrie. This is the new order 7, the new clearance. And this is extra 2503 north at Cedar Hill, order number 7. And let's see, this is just a copy of that same order. And this is a still, and then the still shows that the LNN is sitting there waiting on the main. He will go up and line the switch, his crew will line the switch, and the B&O comes along and just take the siding. Okay, now this shows the B&O made it to Ribo Yard, and he's coming into Ribo Yard with his coal train. So he made it safely.
On the sound on my engine, I put Alco
Okay, now we go to the next scenario. The last bastion of steam, as I was talking about, all the freight trains between Nashville and Birmingham are still steam powered in 1956. The majority of time they're double headed because of the size of the train, and we've got grades that we have to deal with. So it requires 2 crews. You can't consist steam locomotives. So now the trains that we're going to be working with here are extra NR 1178 South at Gresham Yard, and NR 5 North, which is a passenger. I'm sorry, that should be South also. That's my fault. Too busy putting all this stuff in. So they figure that's NR 5 South, and he's at Nashville Union Passenger Terminal. So we've got a freight train heading out south, and we got a passenger train coming up behind him, and the freight train's got to get out of his way, and that's what this is about. So here's the dispatcher. He's doing the paperwork for 1178. And here's the order, C&E engine 1178 at Gresham. There was actually 2 engines, 2779, second engine. And in reality, he would get a copy also. They'd want crews on both engines to have them. So, but for this, we don't worry about it. So at Gresham, and it's engine 1178, run extra Gresham to Columbia. So now that has become an extra 1178 South. Here they're backing to their train. And we got a diesel just doing some switching on the main switch lead. Then you see the NC St. Louis diesels. Those are the transfer for the NC St. Louis, and they're waiting to clearance to depart Gresham and go back to Franklin, where they're out of. Whoop, let me go back to this. Ken is signing the register. I don't have a copy of the register. I should have made one. But we've got registers across the railroad. Anywhere that a train originates or terminates, or comes onto the railroad or leaves the railroad, you have to have a register because the train orders can tell you that you have to wait until a certain train arrives before you can continue. And what happens is if they get to that station and they go onto their own tracks, but they don't sign the register, and then you come along and now you're waiting for them, you have no idea if they're still ahead of you somewhere or if they already got there and have departed onto their own tracks. So registers, we've got several of them across the railroad, and the crews take care of them because they've got to use them to check on others.
OS, Gresham Yard. Extra 1178, departing at 3 a.m.
Okay, so what Ken did was called OS. In other words, he's reporting. It wants the dispatcher to put it on the sheet, the time that he's departing. So every station they go by, that's called an OS. When their caboose passes a station, they're simulating the station operator that's sitting in there. And as the caboose goes by, he calls the dispatcher and tells them that whatever train ID it is has just departed their station or gone by their station. I'm not sure if this is, okay. Now I think we have a diesel hogger in the second unit here, you'll see. Sometimes it takes a bit to get yourself synchronized with the other locomotive. And you got to kind of watch the couplers between the engine, the tender and the second engine. That'll give you a good clue. Okay, it's climbing a long track that climbs up to the main line from the yard. And this is South Gresham. He'll be joining the main yard and be on his way. It's double track through here. Okay, passenger train NR5 is departing Nashville Union Passenger Terminal, an hour behind extra NR 1178 South. Freight train will have to determine by the timetable where he's got to get out of the way of the passenger train. I don't have the specifics, but I believe you have to be off the main line when the passenger train leaves the last station behind you, or 5 minutes before it leaves, something like that. And I don't have a specific time, but it's between 5 and 20 minutes, but it's something we don't use a lot. But he's got to get out of the passenger train's way. When the passenger train gets to where he's at, he expects him to be off the main line, and he's not going to slow down unless the freight train crew sends a flag man on a mile back to flag the passenger train to a stop if for some reason the freight train can't get off the main line. So here's the timetable, and this arrow shows the Cassidy, and it gives them a time, and they figure where they can get the Cassidy and get off the main line with no problem. The times between what we've got for the trains orders and this don't match up because we're doing this between sessions when it wasn't so busy. So we were trying to get everything in for video. Okay. So now the passenger train's ready to depart. Okay, the 1178 has made it to the south end of Nashville and is now going across the viaduct in South Nashville. now the diesels made it, and he's going across the viaduct. Okay, now the freight train has made it to Cassidy, decided he better get in the siding, and he's coming up to the station, you know, past the station and be off the main line. There's one of the train order signals. And here comes the passenger train. Okay, now Nashville Road 206. I should say 1178 made it safely. The passenger train made it safely. And now Nashville Road NR 206 is a regular scheduled class 3 train. So it goes by the name NR 206 and not the locomotive number. So it runs from Gresham Yard to Bowling Green and makes a set off and a pickup at Cedar Hill. Today, NR 206 is powered by a trio of L and N F units. And you can see right here is 206. So that's a schedule. Right here at Cedar Hill, he has a half an hour to get his work done. Now, if that was a real railroad, I'm sure it would be more than half an hour, but it works out for us fairly well. And 206 has left Gresham Yard, and it's on the main heading for Cedar Hill. And here it arrives at Cedar Hill. And it'll come up to the point where the block of cars he has, the end of them is in front of the station, and he'll cut off the cars that are remaining in his train, which aren't many. Oh. Let me move up one. Okay, now the cut that's going to be set off here, he'll pull down and shove back into the yard. And he'll pick up the cut that the block that he's taking with him, and then back on his train. Now he's backing onto the block that he's picking up.
Yeah, so the idea is when things run in multiple sections, every section but the last one carries a green flag. And that way, anybody along the way, like crews waiting for meat,
Now he's got the block out and backing to what's left of his train, original train. Now this is the train that I told you that would show up a little bit later. It's got all those hoppers full of ballast. And he'd be on his way. Okay, Madison Switcher. Ron was working the Madison Switcher. And we have using this RSD-15 as a switcher on the yard. And he's pulling the cars for the Madison job. He'll set them up with a caboose, and Ron and an engine will be brought over, and Ron will take that. Okay, now Ron's ready to leave. He's got his paperwork. He doesn't have to talk to the dispatcher. He never gets on the main line.
This is going to be a tough training to classify.
I was going down the long lead along the main line, and they'll be turning the corner, passing Ford. You're not supposed to see that, Pixie. I have trouble finding my mouse, my cursor. So Ron's doing a little switching. I missed some of the switching he was doing earlier, but he's kind of finishing up his work. And this was part of the area that he was switching earlier. Now he's putting his train back together and will be returning to the yard. All trains that return to the yard, they go to the main classification yard because they're all going to be outbound cars. So they come out of the local yard, but they go back to the main yard, which is all in the same facility. It's just different track. Okay, that's it for the scenarios. Now we'll just do some walking around and video clips. I did have a little problem getting some of these to come up. The screen stayed black, but I can correct that if we have that problem. Okay, I'm not sure which ones I'm getting here now, so I'm going to go out of this and back in. I don't want to stop screen sharing. Messed myself up here somehow. Did I?
Yeah, you stopped sharing, so you can go ahead and find your video and then restart sharing.
There it is. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's see. There's. Okay.
Well, Franklin just on the side of the boxes.
Maybe, well, let me go this way.
Well, Franklin just on the side of the boxes.
Oh, right there.
Here's some of that new equipment. We like to work with it, make sure it's running okay. Oh, sorry. I had it and I messed it up. No, that screwed it up again. Let's see.
You need to train for it. I got one time. Pardon? You really need to train for it. I got one time.
Oh, okay.
The rival? Yeah. I just cleared this end. Where's our next call? Cassidy right over here.
Okay, little background on this one. 1178, the one that was waiting for the passenger train, wanted to get a shot of it departing Cassidy. And I don't know why, but we had to take at least 4 tries, and something went wrong each time. So we finally figured out we got what we needed to do it one more time, and that was this take.
Going backwards.
Oh, well, may you have many happy op sessions in the future, as we will. And that's the program.
Andy, let me ask you, when you get this new passenger terminal operating, how many more people will that take you to operate that?
Well, I'm guessing, but I'd say 3 to 4. We'll have at least 2. There's a lot of post office and head-end traffic, REA, express type stuff. A lot of spots for those. And the passenger trains, we haven't figured out exactly what we're going to have for passenger trains. I've got somebody that's really into passenger trains, and he's helping me with that. So until we actually get the cars all redone and ready to go and the engines painted and ready to go, I'm not really too worried, but I'm guessing 3 to 4 people probably.
So that'll be a significant increase in your operation then.
Yeah, it will. And that's what we got to consider, what we can handle in single track passing, siding, dark territory. You know, you might hit a limit where dispatcher just can't keep up with it. I could see us easily going to 1-to-1 clock, you know, getting rid of the fast clock, because we're almost there now.
Let me ask you this. What do you have a training program? I mean, to get to dispatcher? I mean, you have people in training to become a dispatcher? I don't think you can just walk in your operation and do it overnight. No,
and what we've got, what I've been promoting is we've got engineers sitting out there waiting for their trains. You know, they sit around, they BS, have snacks, have a drink. And the dispatcher has a chair next to him that we normally have a second guy. He plays the station operator, but instead of going out in the railroad at a desk that we've got, we're actually using that desk for other purposes. So it works that the guy sits next to the dispatcher and he simulates being station operator. So dispatcher dictates the orders to him. He writes the orders. He carries the orders out and hangs them at the station where the crews will get them. But when we don't have that second guy there, what I like is to get an engineer to go in there and sit with the dispatcher and understand what he's doing and what he's going through. And it makes them appreciate why they have to OS when they pass a station. When they forget to OS and they're 2 or 3 stations down the line, they've never called the dispatcher. He has no idea where those trains are. You know, right. He's got to know where those trains are so he can work other trains into the system. So by having people kind of OJT, you know, on the job training while they're sitting there with nothing to do. And hopefully I get some that are interested in taking it up. I'd like to do it, but it's really hard for a layout owner to do that. He has to go to someone else's layout. He's just too busy. Yeah, yeah. Well, you've got a wonderful layout and a beautiful operating system, and obviously some really talented guys that are committed to being part of your team. Yeah, I'm lucky. I've got some really good friends, and they like to be here. I've got one guy. He was switching that one of those last trains, those Alcos. He had a career on the C&O and Penn Central. He was a conductor, and 2 others that are with us now, father and son team. And one is the chief mechanic or chief maintenance officer, I guess you'd say, in charge of a regional railroad up at Owasso. And they're rebuilding GP 35s and some others. And his son works for another regional railroad and is an engineer trainee. So, you know, I've got people with some expertise, which is very helpful. Yeah. Always looking for new people. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for Andy?
I hope I didn't go too long. It was about an hour 20.
No, I don't think so at all. I really enjoyed it, Andy. And thank you so much for taking the time to put this all together for us and to show us what a wonderful layout you have and what a great operating system you've created for it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Jim. And I always enjoy sharing my railroad.
Well, thank you so very much.
Thank you.